Coming live from Channel Zero, Quarantine Guys. We need cool names if we're going to be Quarantine Guys.
Yeah?
Yeah. I could be Sea Rock.
Well, I was going to see, you have to, there's steps. You have to pick which animal, because it has to be, the nickname has to be some animal related,
Right.
The adverb of, the furious, or the savage, or the crazy.
Spencer, the savage saber-tooth.
Yeah, something like that.
What could I be? What's a sea animal? Caleb, the cheating cheetah. No, that's lame. It's no good. Mindy, come up with a name. The gangrenous giraffe. No. Let's see.
The cursed cheetah.
Cursed. I don't want to be. Why do I have to be a cheetah?
I don't know. You're the one who said it.
That's a sea animal.
Or the
crocodile.
All right. Cursed chimp.
What are you trying to say? Why? I don't like that animal thing. I wanted to be Sea Rock.
No.
I thought we were going old school.
That's not the rules.
Well, who said that's the rules? I thought we were going 80s band names or something. Or old school hip hop breakdancer names.
Well, I thought with being quarantined, we're going to be like those,
No, I got it. I'll be Sea Rock and you could be Spunky Spence.
Okay.
And we got to have... Do you want the eraser head hair? Or do you want me to have the eraser head flat top hair and you can have... what would be a good haircut?
It has to have the lines carved on the side, though.
I kind of want shitty white guy afro, like the Bob Ross.
No, with the flat top, is it going to be completely straight, or are you going to have that shit?
Oh, you got to have it carved.
Yeah.
You have to have it Edward Scissorhands hedges, sliced to the side. It's got to look good. Funky fresh. We could be the funky fresh boys.
Who gets to wear the watch as the necklace?
We'll trade off. Every town we hit. Quarantine boys. Wrecking your hood from wherever we are to somewhere else. That's so stupid.
No, we should stop.
This was a bad cold open. But you know what?
Sorry.
Fuck it. Yeah, apologies from Sea Rock and Spunky Spence. Spunky Spence is awful, by the way. That's a terrible name. Spunky Spence.
I guess we don't need to come up with a name for the proper introductions anymore.
I do feel like Spunky Spence is nice and wholesome, though.
Yeah. That's something you could tell your grandma.
Yeah. Spunky Spence. Hey there, folks. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. Again and again and again. I'm your host, Caleb James.
Do we really got to do the names after that?
Yes.
That cold open?
Yes, that terrible cold open does not count for the names. And your name's not going to be any better because I didn't think of one. So I'm Caleb James, and this is, with me as always, Spencer, the Honduras Hungry Man Church.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like doing this. I just want to be done with the world.
I kind of feel bad. I kind of wish I didn't ask you, hey, we were going to try to do a podcast before, Easter. Because, I was hoping the answer was going to be no, let's just wait till, Monday or something. And I'd be all right.
All right. The problem is, the motivation to put not just the podcast, but really any workout is tough because it's is the world even going to start back up?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it going to get worse? Things going to get better? They don't feel like they're getting better. This whole year is just a fucking just sliding down a mountain of poop.
So I don't know. Have you watched the Ant-Man movies?
Yes.
So Michael Pena, the fat, that character. I saw a meme with because they're always I want to hear him explain whatever,
Yeah, they always want to explain things funny.
So I saw a meme with that picture, but wanted to explain the year 2020 at the end, at the end of the year, just to, and then this happened, and then
that's probably the happiest somebody would be able to explain the year.
Yeah,
it feels like this has been a very long year. It's only April. It's there's so many months left,
and we haven't been able to do, for half of this year. We haven't been able to do anything.
Everything we had planned to like to make us excited. Like what we were thinking, oh man,
The
we have stuff to do. This is what we can look forward to. Canceled all
Like
of
I
it.
said, the only things that we had, like I had going for me, like
Yeah. The only thing's keeping you going. The only thing's pushing you, like, well, as long as I can get through this month, and then next month I got this coming. Nope.
It's like, work's gonna suck for eternity, but hey, at least like every month and a half I can go to like a convention for a weekend and like talk to some cool people, get some cool art, But no.
Just stare at the wall in my room, cry. Today's episode.
It has nothing to do with any of that.
This is from NewYorkBookEditors.com. What is that? This is from 2017. I do not see a...
Happier times.
Yeah. We're watching that show, Superstore, and we're up to like last year's season, and it's just so weird watching how people were behaving right before everything went sour. You're just like, oh, they're all hugging and touching. You can't do that. You could once upon a time. It feels so long ago.
Well, I guess that one guy was saying like, hey, we're just no more shaking hands forever. No more.
Why?
Just germs.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I don't like shaking hands anyway, but anyway, this article, it does not have an author apparently. I can't find the name. Coming up with the perfect title for your novel. We were talking about this in a few episodes now, and you've stated that this is one of your weaknesses, is coming up with a solid, good title.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll figure out how to do the old title business here. If not, then I guess you're just stuck writing poopy titles.
Yeah.
What's the poopiest title you ever come up with? I've come up with some doozies. I think they were just awful. Though I will say, my poopy titles that I've come up with are usually like 1 or 2 words.
Yeah.
I've never done the 15-word title. Like, those are super awful.
The Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn. You
Exactly.
Never
No terrible title that long. Off the top of your head, can you think of any of your possibly terrible ones? It's hard for me to, without actually looking at my list of stories.
Yeah, I would have to look at my at the list of there was bad, like just things
generic,
like,
probably.
Yeah, like I think what was that one with the bad one with the guy kept on seeing his double, like I called it like double vision or something, like you know, just I think something like that. Just
I mean, short stories are a little different. I think the bad title thing would really hit you hard with novels.
Yeah.
You can't have a bad title novel. If you have a bad title novel, it's going to be hard to sell. Short stories, they're more forgivable.
Where do you stand for, chapters?
Chapter titles?
Yeah. Yay, nay.
I personally think it depends on the story you're telling. Adventure stories, I don't mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like the Conan ones, I think might have had chapter titles. I'm reading Moby Dick now, and it has chapter titles, and there's a lot of chapters. And those are fine because they're usually just like 1 or 2 words, and they kind of just give you a hint as what the title's about. I mean, what that chapter's about. Like sci-fi is another genre I think is fine with those.
Do you see yourself ever doing it?
I'm doing it now with that Conan type story I'm writing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I'll keep those, but I need something because the way the story's told, it breaks up into different parts. So you kind of have, like, if I just do a space, I feel like it'd be too, I don't know, clustered or something. It needs like a solid break.
Not clear enough.
Yeah, like how H.P. Lovecraft, he always actually has a solid break before he gets to another different time period of the story.
That is what like Stephen King does a lot. He'll literally just break the book up into like, there'd be parts, and then within those parts there'd be chapters.
Yeah.
Within inside those chapters, there's sections, and
that's where it gets a little.
It would be like a space with like a little like either like star or like symbol of something to like indicate like a
scene switch.
Yeah, and then do however many that you need for that chapter, then on to the next chapter.
Yeah, my story now, I might just go back to the stars. I might just go to the stars because I've done that many times in the past. I've just done stars for the scene switch. Because just having the space is kind of abrupt. I don't really like that because you could be reading, you're on top of a mountain and then all of a sudden you're at the bottom of the mountain because it's somebody else in another scene. It could be too abrupt. How do you feel about the parts though? Because I read I've read of quite a few novels where usually Stephen King, where it's like part 1 and then 170 pages in, part 2.
Yeah.
I think To Kill a Mockingbird was like that. I think it was like 3 parts.
Again, it depends, like, because for like Stephen King, since we brought him up, The Stand, I think it works good for The Stand because it's literally like a little bit before, like right where the plague hits, and then like up to everybody that's gonna die dies, and it's just like the survivors, and they are starting to all come together, and like that ends a big section, and then the next section is like from like the villains and stuff. Right. You know what I mean? It for that, I think it worked good for that, just because again that book was over like 1,000 pages, so literally that's like 3 different books. Like, you know what I mean? That could have been a trilogy if you know.
Well, when you go with the ports theme too, it could be like TV shows where usually at the end of a season you go to the next season and it's a completely different time period. Yeah. Or as books, you can actually go see like real seasons, like summer, winter. Like there's a lot of ways you could do that. The only thing that bothers me in stories is needless prologues, and a lot of times when people like put a quote on every, like they do chapters, but there's a big quote on every single chapter, especially if it's not written by the actual author. It's like attributed to other authors or something. What is the point of that? That seems a little too much. Yeah, I could get like a couple quotes here and there, but like the whole book, every chapter is a quote.
I find myself when that happens, like I rarely like just kind of skim.
Yeah, you don't really pay attention.
I don't even take the quote in there because I'm just kind of mad. Like, just put all your quotes up front,
or just don't have quotes.
Don't have.
Have one quote that sums up your book, but don't have a fucking quote for every single chapter. You don't need to do that. I've read a lot of stories like that, and I've never seen one that I felt was necessary. Like the Conan ones were all right because it was actually Howard writing those quotes. They weren't attributed to any. They weren't like, you know, William Faulkner quote. Like, this is stupid shit. I don't know why people do that all the time. It's even controversial, I'd say, that if you're going to start your book off with a quote, like right before the first paragraph of your story. But I could even see doing that, but not every chapter or like a whole bunch of times.
I mean, I could get clear, like a lot of times, like an author, either book or movie or something, like will like hear a song, and hearing that song gives them an idea for this thing. So like if you want to put like a quote like from the verse or something of that song, because that kind of like sparked your idea for the story. Again, like I get that, but like do that at the beginning. And don't do it ever again.
Yeah. You don't need... Oh, that's another one. People put song lyrics in their stories, like at the beginning, and they do that every time. So I don't need to fucking have a Bob Dylan song lyric for every chapter of your story. Anyway, going back to this New York Book Editor's article, it just starts off with some things about like marketing and the importance of having a good title. It's pretty much what's common sense. If you have a good title, like even like an Atlas Shrugged, from what I understand, shitty book, terrible political views, but the title's kind of cool. It almost makes you want to read it because, like, Atlas Shrugged, you know, because Atlas, the man, the god who holds the whole earth on his shoulders if he shrugged. Like, that's kind of cool. Shake things up. But
not even like the, like Ready Player One. Yeah. That's kind of a cool, like, you know.
Tells you it's kind of like a video game. It gives you a hint of what the story might be about. Starting off here, how important is the right title? I get the feeling that some of you aren't truly convinced that the title of your novel matters. Who's believing?
Yeah, wow.
All right. Well, this fellow, whoever wrote this, is going to make us a believer. Let's do a quick exercise. Here's a list of original titles from well-known books before they were revamped. Which one would you pick up? Do you think it was the right call to retitle? Ooh, this might be interesting. Yeah. Classic novels retitled. So, originally, First Impressions. This was a Jane Austen book, and it got switched to Pride and Prejudice. That's way better because First Impressions leaves an awful first impression. Yeah. Like, that's so boring. Pride and Prejudice is one of the most famous books, and I think a lot of it is just because people know the title.
Yeah, like I've never read that, but I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. First Impressions, that just sounds like like a placeholder title.
That's something I'm always like, I will look through a bookstore. I'm like, I'm going to get that eventually every time I go to a bookstore, but I never will.
Never do. This was a great change from John Steinbeck. Something that happened. Such a... Like, what? That's so stupid. But got changed to one of the greatest titles ever, Of Mice and Men. good change.
Yeah, I mean,
something that happened.
Yeah, well, you're right. Something did happen.
I would hope so if you wrote a story about it. Now this one, the title, it's not just super popular because of the title, but it's actually very meaningful to the book versus the original title. This is from Harper Lee. To Kill a Mockingbird was originally titled Atticus, which Atticus Finch is the protagonist of, well, he's one of the main characters of To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, To Kill a Mockingbird was, it comes up a couple times in the story because, like, they were talking about, you know, shooting guns and, like, hunting birds, and you don't shoot mockingbirds because all they do is sing, so all they do is bring you joy. And that was, like, a big metaphor for the story. So that is way better than just simply Atticus, which almost sounds like if I heard that name, I would think of, like, some kind of prison.
Yeah.
Like, I would think that was, like, some kind of prison story for some reason. I don't know why. Ernest Hemingway... Fiesta, which is just Spanish for party, Fiesta got turned into The Sun Also Rises. Much better title. Again, it just seems like some of these are just really generic at first.
What I would have to hope is that it's just like a placeholder. Like, you know what I mean? That's just
what I would imagine.
You know, just something to... No, back then, because they didn't have the technology, but like now to put like something to put in the Word doc... So I know when I'm looking through, I know what that story is. Because, like, sometimes, like, you don't know a title until you're almost done writing it. Like,
yeah. Well, like, a lot of these have come... The title has come from the story itself or something. So I would imagine that's how they came up with it. Next up, Tomorrow is Another Day. That was switched to Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell.
That sounds like a James Bond movie.
That's what I thought. Tomorrow is Another Day. And again, so generic. Stranger from Within sounds very vague. That got switched to Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Lord of the Flies is an awesome title because it just like makes you think of death versus Stranger from Within, which is just like makes you think more of like a mystery romance or something. This is an interesting one. Twilight. Good thing this got changed because there'd be a whole series of books out of business. Twilight got switched to The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. The Sound and the Fury is one of those books I always wanted to read because it just sounds really cool. But apparently it's like really hard, like a very difficult book.
Well, those are like your favorite.
Yeah, but it's just like all stream of consciousness from like multiple people at once or some shit. All's Well That Ends Well, that is fucking awful. That got switched to War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. And I think War and Peace was actually a bad translation. I think it was like something else, not just War and Peace. I think it actually was like from Russian to English was some like War and Peace, but it was like the and wasn't there. Like there was something else in there. I forget what it was. You'd have to look that up. But yeah, All's Well That Ends Well just sounds like like an old timey comedy act or something. There's a couple more here. Now this goes back to this way too long one. They don't build statues to businessmen. That got switched to Valley of the Dolls. We have The Mute, which got switched to The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. That's it. So you can kind of see, like you were saying, that's like placeholder titles, just generic, which is kind of our problem is we tend to just leave the generic title. Again, we're working with short stories, but maybe without going further into this, I think it would be a good idea is after we reread our story and do the rewrites, maybe like pull something out of the story to put as the title. And
do you ever have like Russia with like ooh, that's kind of a cool title, but like I don't want to use it for this story.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it on this story.
I want to use it on something cooler. Yeah, I've had that. Actually, a lot of
because like as I try to put my best writing foot forward in everything that I do, but like a lot of the times like for something if it's just for the website doesn't always take my full of attention as if like for a book or something like that.
It's not gonna be something you're gonna be writing for a month to get that short story out. I will say I have come up with a lot of stories actually based on a title idea. Yeah. Which is I don't know if that's a good way to go about things, but I think of a cool title and I'm like, how can I form a story around that title?
That's what I want to do more because like I've heard like you always hear stories about like these awesome things that just was just like, well, I kind of just came up with the name of it, and so like I just kind of had to figure out what would make that name work. Yeah, with that title work.
Like that's what I did with that fiction series I had, The Bazaar of the Blind. Yeah. Because I thought of the title, and then I was like, well, what the hell could that even mean? Because I was thinking bazaar, like that Stephen King short story collection, like a bazaar. So I was thinking Middle Eastern country. And why are the people in the bazaar blind? Like, bazaar is a market. Why are they blind? Well, because they're monsters, and maybe it's another world. And it fucking snowballed. And that's always cool when that happens. Every good book title should do the following. So let's talk about the 3 elements that every book title should have. Number 1, be unique. It's getting increasingly more difficult to come up with a title that hasn't been done before. That is true.
Yeah.
But you must. This is the best way to stand out from the crowd. You ever come across a book title that you've heard before? This happens with movies too, where you've seen the title before, but this is a completely different book or movie, and you're like, what the fuck? And it just like throws you off. It almost makes you not want to read it or watch the movie. It's true that you can't copyright titles. You could name your book The Grapes of Wrath if you'd like, but should you? That would be
ballsy.
Yeah, you just come out with the Grapes of Wrath. So, Stephanie Meyer, I apologize. I guess you could have still did Twilight if William Faulkner didn't change the name of his book.
But maybe he should have just took one for the team and just took that name, that long ago, and then we wouldn't have had to deal with this.
My biggest fear has always been I write a whole novel and come up with a fucking kick-ass title, and then I Google search the title to make sure it's not out there, and it's out there, and it's something popular.
Yeah.
That would suck ass.
Or good or something, like,
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, man. Because, again, you could name it that. No copyright on the title. But, like, if you name your book Grapes of Wrath because you're a fucking young punk and you've never or even heard of Grapes of Wrath, and then it seems like a good book and you go to shop it around there, be like, that's already a book, dude. Like, oh, come on, for real? And then...
but my story's totally different.
Even if it was way better,
yeah.
You're not going to sell it. It's already been done. That's another thing always pisses me off, too, is when I look up a story name or something, or this usually actually happens for character names. It's another episode we should do, how to come up with good character names. But
another thing I need to work on.
I've come up with really cool character names, and then I always Google search them first before I use them, because I'm like, I just want to make sure. And then I find out they're like either a famous baseball player or like somebody that's famous from Japan or Russia or another country, or it's like a very you already used name in fiction, or like a fucking some 1950s book that was the main character. I'm like, oh, damn it. Like, come on. I don't know what the rules for, because you can't copyright an actual character. So I think that would be that's less of a gray area than the title copying.
The only way that you could fit it with that is if it's an homage. I'm using the guy's name because I really enjoyed the guy's work, so I'm going to make my main character have his name was Steve, so... Because, I'm such a big fan of the writer.
Yeah, that's stupid. Don't do that. No homages like that. Be memorable. Picture this. Your reader loves your book and tells his friend, I just read this amazing book. His friend asks for the title, but your dear reader cannot remember the title of your book. He promises to text the friend and... Okay. Come up with a memorable title. Duh. Like, that's like easier said than done. This isn't giving us the proper information how to come up with the memorable title. But again, I think it comes from what I think would be a good way to do this. If you have a unique or cool phrase in your book, especially one that kind of maybe summarizes the story or is an important theme or element, use that. Again, like To Kill a Mockingbird. Like I said, that phrase comes up a couple times in the book, and that's a main theme of the book is you don't kill something innocent. That's, if you can come up with something like that in your story, like, hey, that could be the title of the book. Provide insight. Give a glimpse of what the reader can expect from your novel. An insightful title is almost like a philosophical question. You can chew on it for weeks or even years after reading. I ain't chewing on nothing for years. Take the example, Rotten Tin Mysteries. Why is mystery spelled like that? I'm not reading that. Yeah, I guess I will. Take, for example, Rotten Mysteries of Fine Balance. The title is not particularly poetic or substantial aside from reading the story. However, as the reader sits with the characters, the title becomes more important and necessary for the reader's sanity. Speaking from personal experience, I came away with a new appreciation for the title. It took a while. I was stung because the story was so exquisitely sad, but after reflection, I understood why and what the author was suggesting with the title of the story. It kind of reminds me of like when you watch a movie and then they say the title of the movie and you're like, hey, he said die hard. He said, fucker, you die hard. And that's the name of the movie, get it? But you ever like watch a movie where the title's really long or ridiculous and like they said the whole title, The Fabulous Emancipation? Like, that'd be so stupid if they said that whole phrase in the movie. Did they?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That'd be
They should have though. Like they could have probably pulled it off in the kind of like silly movie that it was.
Here we go. This is the information we need. How to come up with a great title. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of coming up with a great title for your story. First tip, relax. First of all, relax. I promise you that you'll come away with a great title to go along with your great story. Is it going to be great though? You don't know. Don't stress out about it. Stressing out will lock your creativity and make you crazy in the process. So relax. Next up, brainstorm. Just a side note, maybe going with the brainstorming. I prefer to just write the story first.
Yeah.
Generic title, write the story, and then come up with it. But after you've written your first draft, it's time to brainstorm your title. That's even if you already have a title in mind. Start with at least 5 titles, but don't limit yourself. Choose 20 or even 30 titles if you have the creative juice. Why do you have to be in there? Like, why? Should have locked the door. He just smiles at me.
He's like, I thought the water was in here.
See, I'm going to go ahead and say Nizzo on this one. I don't think you have to come up with 20 or 30 titles. That seems like overkill. I mean, unless you're really struggling and you're really having a hard time coming up with the perfect one. But chances are you'd probably end up picking one of the first ones anyway.
Yeah, because there's no way you're going to, it's going to be one of, 22 to, 30. No way it's going to be one of those ones.
No.
You're just throwing random words together just to get a title down.
Yeah, that doesn't seem that helpful to me. Next up, answer the reader's questions. In your novel's title, answer a question for your reader, such as, who is the novel about? Examples, Forrest Gump, The Lord of the Rings, and Oliver Twist. What is the novel about? Examples, The Hunger Games, The Hunt for Red October, To Kill a Mockingbird. And when does your novel take place? 1984, 1001 Nights, Love in the Time of Chlora, the fucking disease that makes your butthole fall out or something. I don't remember what that disease was. Cholera. Yeah, there you go. Where does your novel take place? Salmon fishing in the Yemen. Cold Mountain. A passage to India. Why should someone read your story? John dies at the end. The heart is a lonely hunter. As I lie dying. Use poetic phrases. Consider using a poetic phrase for your novel's title, but challenge your concept of poetry. It doesn't need to be flowery, and it definitely doesn't have to rhyme. It can be alliterative. Tinker, tailor, soldier, spy. It can be action-paced, gone girl. It can be ominous, fear and loathing in Las Vegas. It can be descriptive, snow falling on cedars. Think of your title as a very short poem, a tiny-size haiku. How could you convey the sentiment of your story in just a few syllables? Before we go on, that does bring up an interesting one, the poetry aspect. How do you feel about coming up with more of a poetic title? Like, obviously, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is one of the longer titles that I like. Because that kind of just gives you a small glimpse into what the story might be. Like, it almost makes you think of, drugs in Las Vegas for some reason. Because, I guess it could easily be a murder mystery, too. But I always get the drug idea.
I mean, I don't have... That's, if I'm reading it, I don't have a problem with it. I know writing it, that's never even really came into my mind because I've never even you've at least attempted and worked on poetry and stuff before. I've never wrote a limerick or whatever it is you do with poems, So that idea hadn't occurred.
Never even thought of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on the story, but that could be a useful way to go about it. Don't forget to edit. Titles, just like drafts, need to be edited and polished. Commit yourself to editing your title just as you do to editing your manuscript. I think maybe one of your problems is you just don't spend much time on the title.
That's a possibility.
You don't give too much thought to it. You just go, okay, I'm sick. I'm done writing the story. I don't want to think about it anymore. Here's just the title. Maybe take an extra bit of time to work on that title there. Final thoughts and okay. You don't need his final thoughts. Was there an author to that? I really didn't see one, and I still don't. I don't know. Unnamed author. So yeah, I think the best way to go about it though is they gave a good set of examples of different ways you can go about coming up with the titles, like the alliteration and the poetic types and things like that. But I think what the best, at least for me, I think the best way to go about naming a book especially is to take something from your story, specifically the theme. Doesn't even have to be an actual phrase, which just because, I'm always been a movie lover, like the saying, like we said, the name in the movie always goes, it gets you a little excited. You could go about that way and actually have the phrase in the book. But I think the more important thing is just the theme. And I guess there's like a lot of times where even if it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the story, if the title is just really cool.
Yeah. I do like the examples of like how you said, like, of different ways to pull that thing from your book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? And how to, like just like an element or something from the book.
I think that would just be the most like important aspect. I'm trying to think of like if you're just going memorable, that would be more along the lines of like if you think of like metal band names and stuff, like something that's just real cool.
I remember you trying to think of a name for a title for something. There was this comic called Murder Falcon.
Murder Falcon?
Yes.
That sounds awesome.
Quick plug for this book. I haven't read it, but I know like the theme. It has something to do with like heavy metal. This guy has to like do like sick like riffs on his guitar to like get like these powers or abilities to like to get like the Murder Falcon to like fight whatever, but like it's very like heavy metal and the yacht's like all crazy and stuff like that. But again, that title is something that like catches your eye.
Well, comic books are where they really excel is titles.
Yeah,
because they have to have for whatever reason, titles in comics, they just always have to be like really memorable, and they just have to hit you really hard, like Shirtless Bear Fighter.
Yeah.
Like, you think of that title, like, fuck, I have to read that.
Or the book that I just let you borrow, Money Shot.
Money Shot, yeah. You're like, that sounds like something I would have to read. Of course, it's probably easier naming comic books because you're working with, like, a shorter type of story, but... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much I took away from this that I already know. I think the main thing is we just need to spend more time working on titles. I feel like...
It's like any other aspect of writing. You have to practice and put in the time and the effort to hone that part of the skill. I mean, we always use like the workout analogy. Yeah. So this is just working your lats.
Well, I think when it comes to titles, it goes along... It's like the same vein as the blurb or synopsis you put on the back of the book that I fucking am terrible at because I don't work on it. I think that, because we do that for the site, there's like a little brief synopsis that goes with the stories, and I never do those well. I think those go hand in hand on things to work on. Maybe we should probably do a whole episode about those blurbs too.
Now, do you think it changes at all if you're writing like a series of books?
That's a tough one. I was thinking about that too because
you could either just do like the whatever it is,
part one, part two,
and like have like a little subtitle, but or it can be like a whole other title.
I think the cooler way to do that is do the main title. Like I'm trying to think. I know Terry Mixon has the Empire of Bones, but I don't know if he actually changes the names because his is a series. But just assuming he doesn't change the main name, I think he would have a subheading name. I think the cool way to do it is those just you have we'll use Dune for example. It would be Dune, and then instead of just Dune Part 2, it'd be like Dune. I don't know what Dune the second Dune is, but it's like Dune Infinity Galaxy, like
Super Sandy.
Yeah, Dune 3 fucked up worms. Like you just have a series like. Because that goes with the memorable thing. You have the main title, which would probably be, for a series, I would imagine, shorter the better.
Yeah.
Like Dune's one word, super memorable name.
But you can have that, like, that would be on the cover, Dune, and then the rest of the title really tiny underneath.
Yeah, and then you would know what you're getting with that. The only problem with that is if you have, like, a 15-book series and none of them have numbers.
Yeah.
That could be a little confusing. That just comes with formatting, though. I think... Because if you have like the main title, subtitle of the actual book, and then part 1 or part 2, like that gets pretty long.
See, one of the best I've seen it is like The Magicians. It's a trilogy of books. It's a TV series that just ended on Sci-Fi. But the first it went Magicians, Magician Land, Magician King.
Mm.
And like that was each like, or I can't remember which, if it was king then land or land then king, I can't remember.
Yeah, whatever.
But it went from one word to that word plus one other word. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. Do you feel modern books have better titles or worse titles? I feel like a lot of them seem a little more generic.
Yeah.
Like even The Magicians is kind of a generic name. Good Omens, that doesn't really give me any feelings towards the book one way or another if I didn't know the story. Versus like American Gods, that kind of gives you like, oh, there's gods in America. You know, you kind of get maybe like a folklore feel. Stephen King, I think he always nailed his book titles for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying, The Stand.
And he goes simple.
Yeah.
Carrie, simple title. Pet Sematary is very simple, but seems super like awesome and metal.
And like we were saying, it's something. It's a thing within the book. There's a pet cemetery.
Well, that if you notice, Stephen King, the way he titles his books, for the most part, is because that's like either he seems to either title the main character or one of the main characters, the main event, or the main. I don't want to say element, but like the main thing in the book. So Carrie's I was gonna say Carrie, protagonist. Pet Cemetery, that's like the main place, and the main theme is like this pet cemetery. Like that's almost the antagonist. You said It, that's the Pennywise the clown. It's It, that's the main, and it's so simple, 2 letters. Salem's Lot, that's the place, right?
Yeah. The Dead Zone. That's just awesome sounding.
Dead Zone, that's what makes you just want to read it, and that's also a main element in the book. Cujo, like it just goes on and on.
The series, Dark Tower.
Yeah,
that's dope as fuck. Like, now, granted, he gets to like the for each one's normally not that long, so but there's 7 of them, so you know it gets tricky. But like just at the Dark Tower, like that's the cool.
It feels, again, kind of metal.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, I want to read that. Has he had any flop titles? Any titles that may even be less memorable?
Like The Gore Who Loved, like Tom Gibson or something. It was like a baseball player.
Was that a novelette? That was a...
It was like a short, like, novelette kind of thing.
Maybe, like Misery still, that's awesome for some reason. I mean,
especially as you read more of that book.
Yeah,
and you're just it's Misery. That's what
the more it goes on, you're like, yeah, that's Misery. It might seem generic at first, but the longer it goes, you're like, okay, I get it. Ah, shit, I was just thinking of one. You had one. Oh, that Elevation book. That's what happens in the book.
Yeah, the
guy just starts floating, kind of. But that was kind of, but that also wasn't a very good book.
Yeah, like
compared to most of his work, because it was kind of happy and. It was okay.
Really, I mean, it was a short story.
Yeah, it was like a novella, if that. It took like an hour to read. But yeah, Stephen King's very good at naming books. But like, far as more modern writers, it's really hard to come up.
You get like the Patterson, like the Jane Patterson, just whatever, 17. You know?
Yeah, do that with series. Maybe at some point I just want to look up the worst names for popular fiction, but I feel like if the titles roll bad, it doesn't usually become popular, or they actually change it, especially when they adapt it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that now. That's long enough. If you folks want to see our terrible titles, go to www.drunkenpenwriting.com. Get us up on Twitter at DrunkpenWriting. You can follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook at DrunkenpenWriting. And you can go to spunkyspence.com coming soon for Spencer's breakdance tutorials.
Oh, that's what that website was for?
Oh. Maybe we might be getting a different kind of tutorial then. Anyway, I can't even think of a shitty hip-hop, like fucking breakdancer slang to end the episode, but maybe one day.
Hey! Oh,
no.
hey.
No. No.